Ask the question. I mean, maybe it's the training for the next generation of consumer AI, or maybe it's training the system that just helps select targets in Iran. The point is you don't know, and nobody is legally required to tell you. This is interesting. On March 1st, was that 9 days ago, roughly, Iranian drones hit 3 Amazon data centers, 2 in the UAE and 1 in Bahrain, if these reports are accurate. These are not military bases. They are not associated with military bases. These are, big kind of office building type structures, or, well, they're data centers. They're full of servers. And when they were struck, financial systems all across the Gulf suddenly went dark, as did many other services around the world. In fact, some of the AI services were interrupted. And some Amazon services were apparently interrupted. And Amazon Web Services, which is one of the largest providers of internet, what would you call it, tools, capability in the world. Amazon Web Services told their customers to migrate their data to other parts of the world. It turns out that the reason why Iran targeted Amazon in Bahrain and the UAE was because their servers were providing the U.S. military with AI capability. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. A single ChatGPT query, if you go into ChatGPT and you say, what's the best restaurant in Portland where I can find, vegan food? In a couple of seconds, you'll get an answer. And that typical ChatGPT query takes about 0.3 watt hours of energy. That's 0.3 of a watt. Not even 1 watt. Right? The old incandescent light bulbs, they were 60 watts. So you could do, 180, about 200 queries and use the same amount of electricity as one light bulb. So it's not a lot of power. People are like, I published a piece over on Daily Kos this morning, and there's a picture that Louise did using an AI product. And some wag comes on and goes, you shouldn't have Louise make these pictures with AI. It uses so much resources. Well, it turns out most of the resources that are being used by AI are for our military. I mean, this is pretty amazing. This is the Dre dossier over on Substack asking, so why is Amazon building a campus in Indiana that will consume 2.5 gigawatts of electricity, roughly equivalent to powering half the homes in the entire state? Why is Meta planning a facility in Louisiana drawing 5 gigawatts? That's 5 billion watts. When a ChatGPT query is 0.3 of a watt, right? Why are they doing this in New York City? Why is OpenAI's Stargate facility in Abilene, Texas already running at 200 megawatts and scaling toward 1.2 gigawatts? And then Dre Dossier writes, this only makes sense when you understand who the actual customer is. The military AI market is growing from $9.2 billion in 2023 to nearly $39 billion by 2028, a 33% annual growth rate. The Pentagon just awarded a $9 billion contract in 2020 to AWS, Google, Microsoft, and Oracle. And the Pentagon has also announced plans to build AI data centers on 4 military bases. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They write, when you see a gigawatt data center going up in rural America and the company won't tell your mayor what it's for, you are allowed to ask the question. I mean, maybe it's the training for the next generation of consumer AI, or maybe it's training the system that just helps select targets in Iran. The point is you don't know, and nobody is legally required to tell you. Now, here's where it gets totally wild. The Geneva Conventions, they were ratified in 1949, updated in 1977. And the additional protocols from 1977 include one called Article 52, parenthesis 2. This is of additional protocol number 1. And it notes that once a civilian object becomes a lawful military target, a civilian object becomes a lawful military target the moment it makes a, quote, effective contribution to military action. So, in other words, the minute that the Pentagon starts running their programs on Amazon's AWS data servers in Bahrain and the UAE, those servers, even though they have, your order for, a new spring jacket from Amazon, even though it's got that on it, that server has now become a military target. And Article 58 of the same protocol requires parties to the conflict to keep military assets away from civilian populations and not embed military operations inside civilian infrastructure. And we are doing the exact opposite. We've got, through Palantir, through JWCC, through AWS, we have these military operations being embedded in our data centers all over the country and all over the world. Now, the Red Cross has formally said, let's do something about this. The UN Security Council unanimously passed a resolution 2573 condemning attacks on civilian infrastructure. But, even if it has military application, but none of it is binding.